Now, once the contract has been created, we have to worry about these other things that the contract happens. The first type of contract I want to talk about is a valid contract. I hope that you never get anything other than a valid contract. I hope that for you. I wish every contract you get's valid. Valid means, I didn't say a good contract, I said a valid one. A valid contract means all 5 parts are in place. The money, the people, the process, all of that. That's valid. Doesn't mean you like it, doesn't mean you think it's good, still valid. The second type you might get is what's called a void contract. Now, there's enough of you in this class right now, I'm warning one of you that I will get one of you on this exam. So please understand, void means one of the 5 parts of the contract are completely missing. Tiffany, I'll wash your car today, yes or no? Say yes. Yes. She said yes. Is that a contract? I didn't offer any consideration in that contract. It's void. Legally, it never even was a contract, so it's kind of a misnomer when someone says a void contract because it's not even really a contract. Never was, because we didn't talk about consideration. We missed one of the parts, all right? Contrast that with the word voidable. Voidable looks like a valid contract, but once you inspect the contract, you find out that one of the 5 parts are defective. All right?
Like your story? Is that it?
Like my story? Which story?
The story of the golfing story.
No, it would never made a contract because they never got acceptance. That was just an offer.
Okay.
Voidable, let me give you an example, Holly. You got a house listed. My investment company is going to buy it. So we send you a purchase agreement, signed, $20,000, signed by my vice president of investment, Olivia. She's the one I'm putting all my eggs in, the one daughter and the 5 boys. But so it's signed by Olivia. She's the vice president of my investment company. Everything looks great, right? Olivia's 15. So the part about a legal person looked valid until you inspected it and found out that that was defective. So that contract can be undone. It can be voidable. You could say the home inspection is because you did not give me the truth. So if you told me your house is perfect and I enter into a purchase agreement and then my inspection finds out it's way less than perfect, yes, you could argue that it's not mutual assent. You lied to me to get me into that contract. That's where I keep going with on these whole inspections thing when people go, well, it's not a major defect. Yeah, but you lied to me. To me, that's a violation of one of these, makes the contract voidable. The other one that's very common, my dad was insane when he signed it. Yeah, that happens all the time. Anna Nicole Smith, right? Old man leaves the money to her. The kid says dad was on painkillers when he edited his will. What's it called when you modify your will? Codicil. When the codicil was written, it's a contract, but dad wasn't in his right mind, so that contract's voidable. I wanted to go back to the original case. Same thing with the Simons. When Simon left Brent all that money, David Simon said, wait a minute, dad was on painkillers, wasn't in his right mind, therefore the contract is voidable, we want it undone, money comes back to us. Exact same thing, the Anna Nicole Smith and the Simon court case are the exact same case. You could just change names. Exact same thing. So that's another common one when someone says, hey, wasn't in my right mind, or I was forced into it. You know, Guido showed up with a pen, made me sign this contract. It looks valid, but it's voidable. Well, you don't like Guido? It's a Star Wars character? Nerd. Nerd! Guido's a Star Wars character? Is there Mafia in the 3000s? Which one was he? I don't remember him.
I'm going to show my nerd and say it's not Guido, it's Greedo.
We had a bigger nerd correct the original nerd. He's up here going, well, that's wrong, but I'm not going to admit that I know that's wrong. You guys need to sit together next time, all right? I actually like Guido better now that I've heard it. Bang. Yeah. All right. So void means it never was a contract because one of them is missing. Voidable looks valid, but upon inspection, one of them is defective and can be undone. All right. On the defective contracts, you actually can reaffirm, by the way. All right, you could call me back and go, hey, I think Olivia's not of age. Do you really want to do this contract? Yeah, let me sign. I'll reaffirm on it, and we're good.
And by defective, you mean voidable? Is that?
Voidable is defective. One of the things that looks like it on the surface looks valid. My dad looked sane, but turned to find out he was crazier than a baseball bat. Or was that a football bat? Football bat. Say that again. It could have 2 or 3 defects. Yeah, Olivia signed it, and Olivia's crazy. No. Yeah, I've got 5 boys and 1 girl, and she's the basket I'm putting all my eggs in. She's 15 and went to med school this summer at Berkeley. It's a pre-med school to start teaching them how the med school works. And she's like, we were at 7 a.m. to 9:45 every day. I'm like, oh, you only got about 8 years of that. She's like, it was long. And so it's a school that teaches them how med school works. And they start them young. She went at 15 at Berkeley. She went 4 weeks to Berkeley this summer. No, she goes to Southport. Yeah. It's pretty bad when the IU guys picking on Brown County.
It's better than IPS.
IPS, the 4 most dangerous letters in education. You'll get that later today at some point. You'll go, that was pretty funny, but you won't, obviously you didn't get it now. Get it? IPS, the form of, that's like saying there are 3 types of accountants. Those who can count and those who can't. Sing is like, I don't really care, just, we could have been out here 10 minutes sooner if you'd have just. The last contract is called unenforceable. And she's wearing a Star Wars shirt. It's like a herd of nerds in here now. Unenforceable contract sometimes is called valid between the parties because judges can't enforce action. What's the old saying? You can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So I say, hey, Tiffany, I'll wash your car for $20 today, yes or no? She says yes. She gives me the $20. I walk out there and go, hey, Bungo, I ain't washing your car. What are you going to do? You can't make me wash the car. Even a judge can't make me. All right? That's an unenforceable contract. Valid between the parties. A lot of times, unenforceable contracts are only noticed once the contract has been executed. She's got a new clean car. I got $20. There was probably some kind of deal there, but no one knew it because it's only valid between the parties, you and I. All right? You cannot be taken to court and forced to perform. I doubt it. Could I give another example? If a buyer decides, yeah, I can give you a real good example. I was involved in a court case where the buyer made an offer to the seller. Seller accepted it. Buyer found out that the seller had a health and hospital lien on it for a bunch of money, and it was a quit claim deed, so he got the interest. And the buyer decided that I'm just not going to buy. So the seller took him to court. Now, this whole court case was $10,000. It was a POS house, right? You know what that is, right? Okay, good. The judge literally told the buyer, I can't make you buy it, but I can make you pay for it. And that's called a suit for specific performance, which we're going to get into in a minute. He said, I cannot make you take title, but I can make you pay for the entire thing. And so he found in favor of the seller for the cost of $10,000. The buyer actually ended up taking title. Yeah, might as well. I mean, you're going to pay for it.
Not because it was already it was already there. So you should have known to sign the paperwork.
Yeah, it was already a contract. You can't just decide not to do a contract. A lot of people have that, and you guys will get people like that. Oh, you know, my wife and I were talking. We decided we're not going to. I've had it on both sides. Decided we're not going to sell. The hell you're not. You got a contract. It's a legally binding, enforceable agreement between parties. You can't just say, I've decided not to sell, or I've decided not to buy.
What do you say in that instance? Like, I mean, I've heard people
You have a contract. You will be sued.
you might want to go contact a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, you always don't. You want to refer. You're under contract. If you don't sell this property, you are subject to a lawsuit, and now, at which time I think you better start thinking about contacting an attorney.
And we can't help you with that.
Yeah, and I'm not a practicing attorney. My whole job is to tell you to get an attorney.
Because I've heard that happen. I just didn't.
Yeah.
But if you agree, and like both parties agree, can't it terminate?
If both parties agree to terminate, yeah, you can release from a purchase agreement if you want. If the seller all of a sudden says, and I've had this deal show up, where a seller said, I don't want to sell, all of a sudden something's happened. In his particular case, he didn't lose his job. He thought he was losing his job. They were going to move back down to Alabama with their family. It turned out he didn't get a job cut. So all of a sudden he's like, well, I don't want to sell. I'm like, you can't. You signed a contract. So we reached out to the other side, and he actually paid the buyer $5,000 to release the purchase agreement. And the buyer said, yeah, I'll go find another house. Give me $5,000. The seller said, I'll pay $5,000 to get out of this. And both parties agreed, and buyer went off on his own way. And to my knowledge, the seller's still in the house as of today. As long as they both agree. If you guys both agree, you guys can do anything. As long as the contract fits these parameters, you know, got to be a legal activity. We can agree on anything. Now, once the contract has been formed, that's the word you want to look at it. Buyer writes an offer to the seller. Seller accepts the offer. That is called, the contract is now formed, all right? What also happened when that happened, when the contract gets formed? Come on, I've preached about this in 3 different chapters. What happens when the buyer writes the offer, the seller accepts the offer, the purchase agreement's now formed? Thank you, say it again. I've earned my money. That's my job, I'm done. Right? And I told you, we talk about it all the time. I get paid when it's formed. I may actually receive my money on the settlement date, but once I brought the buyer to the seller and they agreed and they formed the contract, it also now goes to pending, and now it's subject to that 90 days if I die rule because I've already done my job. I've earned my money, all right? Sometimes contracts can be discharged. Discharge is with an agreement like she had just asked. There is a key term that sounds really funny. It's called time is of the essence. Time is of the essence in a contract is a big fooler to a lot of people. It has nothing to do with forming the contract. Time is of the essence has to do with completing the contract. All right? So when a buyer sends you a purchase agreement and he says, we will buy your house for $100,000 and we will close on October the 15th with time is of the essence. That means on October the 16th, if he hasn't done what he's supposed to do, i.e. buy the house, then one or both parties are out of the deal. All right? If we did not have this statement, time is of the essence, think about this. I could bring my buyer to your listing and say, we want to buy your house and we got to get a loan and you accept the offer, and I tell you, well, we got a 12 for a credit score and it's going to take us a little while to get our credit up to get the loan. And 3 years later, we call you and say, we're still working on it. We've almost got it to where we need to be. That's why this term is in there, because you got to give me a time that this contract is going to be completed by. If it's not completed by that date, one of us or both of us are out of the deal. So I can literally move on as the seller and not be held captive by the buyer for 3 years, in my example, while he's trying to get his loan. So time is of the essence is a date that we put on our purchase agreement by which the contract that just got formed must be completed. It has nothing to do with, you got 10 minutes to sign this. Now, we put that on the contract. We put that on the offer. We want you to respond to this offer within, 48 hours. But we're going to close on October the 10th, and time is of the essence. The deadline for the purchase or the offer means the offer is going to go stale after that time frame. Time is of the essence has to do with the closing of the contract once it's already formed.